The Jedi Council convened in the dimly lit chamber of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. The Clone Wars had been raging on for over 3 years at this point, and it seemed as though there would be no winner. The Council has just received urgent messages from the Wookiees on Kashyyyk, begging for assistance as the Separatists made a major push to capture their stronghold. The Council knew that they couldn't afford to lose Kashyyyk, as it was strategically important and the Wookiees were strong allies of the Republic. Yoda volunteered himself and asked for the assistance of both Obi-Wan and Anakin, knowing their track record and believing their battle prowess to be useful. The Jedi would immediately deploy themselves into battle. Now obviously this leaves Utapau without a Jedi General to lead the campaign. In Obi-Wan's stead, Jedi Master Kit Fisto was elected to lead the campaign in defeating General Grievous. The duel between Fisto and Grievous would be intense, but it would ultimately end with the death of Fisto, leading to a monumentous victory for the Separatists on Utapau. The Council couldn't dwell on their loss and had to move on. The Jedi had just arrived on Kashyyyk to gunfire and explosions. The Separatists had invaded. Death reigned over the landscape as Wookiees fought off incoming droids. Yoda, Anakin, and Obi-Wan landed on the ground and began slicing droids to the floor with their lightsabers. The position was slowly being stabilized, causing Anakin and the Masters to retreat to a vantage point whilst the clones continued to defend. As they slept that night, Anakin began to shake in his bed. His mind was jolted into a faraway place where he once again envisioned his wife being killed in childbirth. He watched as her life force left her body as she passed away. Anakin wakes up screaming, causing everyone around them, including Obi-Wan and Yoda, to stare at him. He couldn't get these visions out of his head. Anakin had a lot going on in his life during this time. He had just been denied the rank of Master, a title that meant so much to him as it would have granted him access to the restricted section, where he would be able to search for the clues to save his wife. He knew that the Council didn't trust him, that the Order didn't trust him. He felt like an outcast. He attempted to speak to his wife about this, but Padme just told Anakin not to worry, an answer he didn't want to hear. Anakin's inner turmoil became increasingly difficult to contain. That morning, he stood atop a massive tree towering across the entire battlefield. He watched the sun rise over the horizon and let his emotions drop. Yoda continues to sense a turmoil within Anakin and feels obliged to address it. He tells young Skywalker to speak whatever is troubling him. Anakin hesitates. He can't talk about this. Everything he is going through is against the Jedi Code. Obi-Wan enters the scene concerned, sensing the shift in Anakin's emotions too. Yoda calls back to their private session in the Jedi Temple, only days earlier, asking Anakin if the two events were related. Shutting his eyes, Anakin sensed through the Force what he should do. He needed answers, and he was failing miserably on his own. He was running out of options. If he didn't do anything, Padme will die. Anakin had no choice. With a deep breath, he explains that he is having nightmares of someone dying, and that someone is his wife, Padme Amidala. Yoda and Obi-Wan exchanged a concerned glance, knowing the weight of what Anakin has just said. Anakin continued to narrate the anguish he felt in his dreams, painting vivid images of Padme's suffering. He described the helplessness that gripped him as he watched Padme's life slip away in his nightmares. He also details how he had similar dreams only years ago of his mother, which turned out to be true. Yoda could see the torment that Anakin was experiencing, and knew that lecturing him on attachments was too late. He was already in love, and love such as this could not be broken. Placing his hand on his chin, Yoda thinks for a moment. He tells Anakin that these dreams are very troubling, but the Force rarely reveals the future in such a way. As powerful as he is, repeated dreams of this nature are unlikely. He believes that it is not a coincidence that a dream such as this would appear during wartime. Obi-Wan turns his head to Obi-Wan, feeling confused. Confirming what Yoda said, he asks the Grand Master if he believes that someone is planting these visions as a way to cause anguish within Anakin. The Grand Master nods. Anakin's eyes went wide, as he didn't know how to interpret this information, as he never considered this as a possibility. On one hand, he was pleased with the notion that his dreams were fictitious, but on the other hand, the idea that a being was manipulating his thoughts to turn him against the Jedi Order terrified him to his very core. The trio knew that they must tread with caution. Anakin's nightmarish vision raised unsettling questions about the nature of their enemies and the hidden dangers that lurked in the shadows. Without hesitation, Yoda mentions the possibility of Chancellor Palpatine being behind this. The dark side has always surrounded him and is only increasing. Ever since he was appointed as the Chancellor, the dark side has clouded the Jedi's ability to peer into the future. Maybe his strength in the dark side is causing this. Anakin immediately interjects, backing up his old friend. Yoda and the Council were increasingly worried of his actions, and Anakin knew this after being given the assignment to spy on him. Yoda makes the decision to pull them out of the Kashyyyk campaign and return to Coruscant, so that they can investigate the cause of these nightmares. Yoda can tell this is significant. If the prophecy is true, Anakin is pivotal in the end of the Clone Wars and the Sith. Back on Coruscant, the Jedi Council searched relentlessly for answers. Yoda had heard of this level of Force power in his 900 years alive, but he was increasingly wary of Anakin's dreams during a time like this. However, even though he was skeptical, Anakin felt a sense of relief. He knew that his wife was going to be okay because of the fictitious dreams, and because of this, Anakin's inner turmoil depleted. Yoda and Obi-Wan had decided not to tell the rest of the Order about Anakin's attachments until the conflict was over, meaning that Anakin was essentially living in a stress-free existence for the time being. His view towards the Jedi had changed. He no longer felt the resentment that filled his mind. Yoda has bent the rules of the Order to go out of his way to help him in his most desperate hour, and Anakin is beyond grateful for this. But they did reveal to the Council that Anakin's mind was under attack by Sidious, that he was planting dreams in his mind but didn't go into specifics. But Palpatine was furious. He couldn't manipulate Anakin anymore. Knowing that Yoda was assisting him in uncovering his dreams, he can no longer sense the immense emotional turmoil and conflict within him. But worse, he can sense positive feelings towards the Jedi. For as smart as Palpatine is, he hadn't expected Anakin to confess about his relationship with Padme, believing that he would be expelled. Palpatine had made one mistake, and now he had to fight to fix it before the consequence became too dire. He decided he needed to cause conflict within Anakin another way. If he couldn't drive him insane through dreams of his wife dying, then perhaps he could order the assassination of her. He hires the formidable assassin Asajj Ventress to eliminate Padme, telling her where the apartment is and that she needs to be killed by a lightsaber. Sidious offers Ventress anything she wanted, even a place at his side if she succeeded. That fateful night, as darkness shrouded their apartment, Ventress struck, igniting her crimson lightsabers with deadly intent. However, she hadn't expected Anakin to be right there, and as Ventress swung for Padme, Anakin's senses erupted, and he reacted with lightning-fast reflexes, blocking her lethal strikes. The room became a battlefield as the two engaged in a fierce duel. Anakin's determination to protect his beloved Padme fueled his strength, and he ultimately overpowered Ventress, disarming and kicking her to the floor. He bellowed at her to tell him who hired her. Obviously, she wouldn't reveal this information until Anakin closed his fist and she was ripped into the air, scratching at her neck for air. Anakin's fingers formed a pincer movement as his force choke almost killed Ventress. Before all the air in her lungs left her, she called for him to stop, and she gave him the name of the man who hired her, Sidious. Ventress is arrested and taken into custody while the council holds a meeting. They discuss their concerns that only someone on Coruscant could hire Ventress and provide her with the required weaponry to carry out this task. This worries the council as they conclude that Sidious is here on Coruscant. Obi-Wan brings up what Dooku said years ago, that a Sith Lord was in control of the Republic. At the time, they didn't take what Dooku said seriously, but now they think he might have been serious, and this thought terrifies the Council. Later that day, Yoda, Windu, and Obi-Wan meet with Organa to discuss what they have learned about him, about their increasing concerns that the Sith Lord behind the Clone Wars, who played both sides from the beginning, Darth Sidious, is a top-level Republic official. However, they plan to expose him. They propose an idea to Organa as he takes it directly to the Senate. Organa puts forward an idea to the Senate to pass a vote to have all members of the Senate blood tested for a midi-chlorian count to show affinity to the Force. An idea proposed and backed by the Jedi Order, who have raised increasing suspicions that a Force user working within the enemy has infiltrated the Republic. The delegation of 2,000 backing Organa follows him in this proposal, but a lot of the rest of the Senate is convinced by the idea that an enemy has infiltrated their ranks. A vote is passed in the majority, and therefore, a mandatory blood testing is required for all Republic officials. Each blood test is required to have a Jedi present, and their first batch are carried out over the following day, with senators and their committees undergoing the test. The time comes when the bureaucrats and Palpatine's office require blood tests, and for this, Yoda, Mace Windu, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Kashyyyk are present during this. Palpatine is worried. He's been backed right into a corner. He did everything he could to stop the vote from passing, even tried to forge the results before Organa was very tight in his regulation of the vote, and he couldn't get anything passed. He begins to sweat as he watches the bureaucrats have all their bloods tested, and don't show any Force sensitivity. He already knows his midi-chlorian count, 20,000, and knows the blood test will show this. It's his turn to have his blood tested as the Jedi and testing team approach to watch. But as the nurse inserts the needle into his arm, the Jedi watch in horror as Palpatine moves in a blur, decapitating him and watching his fingers glow, ready to discharge lightning. But instead of firing at the Jedi, he sends at all of the bureaucrats, who are all jolted in pain and collapse to the floor, dead. Palpatine grabs the second blade before Yoda can say anything. General Grievous emerged from the corner, still stained in the blood of Kit Fisto. Palpatine's plan here is to frame the Jedi for the death of the bureaucrats and present the narrative to the Senate that they attempted to overthrow him, but failed, and use this to turn the Senate and galaxy against the Jedi. All he had to do was win this battle. Grievous swung as if he held 4 royal claymores in his grasp. When he swiped his blade, he caught Obi-Wan through the leg as he plummeted to the floor. But before Grievous could finish the job, Yoda uses the Force to push him towards the wall. Lightsabers continue to clash, and amidst the chaos, Yoda leaped above Grievous, but missed the killing blow and landed behind him. Yoda, the injured Obi-Wan, and Kashyyyk take on Grievous whilst Windu and Anakin fight Palpatine. In this duel, Anakin is focused on one goal, killing Palpatine. He has no emotional turmoil, and knows his friendship with Palpatine all these years was a lie. Because of this, his emotional stability was able to tap into his true Chosen One power. He worked alongside Windu, the master of Vapod, who increased in strength as the battle progressed. But in the end, Windu and Anakin, the 2 most skilled Jedi of the age, were too much for Palpatine and overwhelmed him with sheer strength and technique, killing the Sith Lord. Behind them, Kashyyyk and Yoda had cut 3 of Grievous's hands off, and he was down to his last saber. The 3 Jedi attacked simultaneously, which was too much for Grievous to block, and the droid general uttered his last mechanical breath. They immediately contact Organa and obtain the security footage from Palpatine's office and present it to the Senate. The Jedi detail how they believed for a while that the Sith Lord behind the Clone Wars was in control of the Republic and playing both sides of the war, and this proved it. This was accepted by the Senate, and the new chancellor was elected, Bail Organa, for his role in Palpatine's uncovering as a traitor. Celebrations are carried out around the galaxy as the war ends, and now, with the Senate free of the Sith's influence, they can strive towards a positive future for the Republic, focusing on rebuilding and the needs of the people. A couple of days later, Padme is rushed into hospital and enters labor. Anakin watched without fear as his dream stopped with Palpatine's death, which confirmed it in his mind. He sits with his wife as they hug their children Luke and Leia for the first time. The Jedi played a pivotal role in rebuilding the galaxy following the war, and are commended in the Senate for their role in the war. However, the Jedi Council had one thing left to do: the reveal of Anakin's wife and children, ultimately against the Jedi Code. But Yoda dealt with this and revealed he already knew. But Anakin's role in the discovery of Palpatine cannot be overlooked. He truly was the chosen one, and they couldn't have won the war without him. Although grudgingly, he believes they should overlook Anakin's attachments in this case, as they have done this in the past. For example, Revan, who had a wife. Most of the council agree, and Anakin is allowed to stay in the Jedi Order. He stands atop the penthouse balcony and looks across the glowing Coruscant sky, holding Luke with Padme next to him holding Leia. He has everything he's ever wanted. Thank you guys for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to check out one of the 2 videos present on the screen now. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you.